Good afternoon, Rotary Club of Harrisburg. It's Monday, and it is a scorcher. But it's good to see you all here, and I hope you're finding a good place to stay cool. Andy, I don't know if there's a cool spot on the golf course or not, but hopefully you're finding it. Doug Piper is pinch hitting today, but thanks in Steve Swartz. You know, when you said no TED Talks, that really, it just threw me for a loop. So let's get going with the invocation. Doug?
Can you hear me? Okay, Lord, I just thank you for the opportunity to be here for the Rotary Club and the fact that we do service to mankind. We're so interested in reaching out to people. We're taking those steps, and we're going to make a real lot of progress because of making those steps. Just thank you for all those wonderful people in Rotary who just are so engaged and so connected with this. And for the many years of people serving this, including our Bob Hostetter for tomorrow, for 40 years plus. But oh, Lord, thank you. May we reach that ideal to be there, to be aware of other people and the fact that we care. That's what the Rotary function is. And thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to pray. And I pray all these in your wonderful holy name. Amen. Amen.
Thanks so much, Doug.
I'm done. You're very welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now take a moment to sing God Bless America. We are led tonight by retired Navy Petty Officer First Class Generald Wilson.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the lights from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Wow. On behalf of each person.
Thanks, Adeline. Great selection. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Rotary four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Second, is it fair
Is it
to
fair to
all
all
concerned?
concerned?
Third, will it build
Will it build
goodwill
goodwill and better
friendships?
friendships?
And fourth, will it be
Will it be
beneficial
beneficial
to all concerned? Let's make sure we keep the four-way test front and center. A couple of big thank yous today. Thank you to our corporate members. We so appreciate your support and all that you do to help make the many humanitarian projects we work on possible. Thank you to Andy Rebuck for taking minutes today. Andy just got a big surprised look on his face when I said that. Keep the four-way test in mind, please, as you're doing that, Andy. This week's lunch money budget is being donated to Bethesda Mission. And if your lunch dues are not included in your quarterly dues, or if you'd like to donate more, just hop out to the Bethesda Mission website and click on the donate button. Updating your profile. Well, you know, so many of you did a great job of updating your profile, and we thought it would be a good ask to say, just head back out to your profile again and update your hobbies and interests. So wouldn't it be cool, you know, if we could find out how many people in our club enjoyed, let's say, bike riding, and maybe we all get together some weekend and go for a bike ride, or, you know, Andy out there on the golf course. How many people would like to join Andy? I mean, if you're a golfer, wouldn't it be nice to know that? So we want to update hobbies and interests and see if we can use that as a way of gathering up small groups of people to do social events related to their hobbies and interests. It's real easy. Just go on out to the website, click on Edit My Profile, and edit, and go to Hobbies and Interests, and then click on Save. So it's real simple. Like that. Thanks for putting those slides in there, Adeline. We had a great time on Monday, last week, Monday evening, over at the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. There were 7 of us there, so it wasn't a big, huge group, but we were packing food boxes and helping out. This was the real deal, as you can see from the masks and the social distancing that was happening there. It was a great opportunity to be a part of an effort to provide food to those in need. Our next food bank related project is coming up on Monday, August 10th. So to get signed up for that, go ahead out to the events calendar on our website, click into the event, and get signed up for that. Great Rotary swag on display as well. Someone told me I should say Rotary merch. Speaking of merch, there's an opportunity to win Rotary merch by sharing the Rotary story. Here's the way it works. There's a couple of ways you can share the Rotary story. When you see a post on Facebook or LinkedIn, we appreciate the likes, we appreciate the comments, but don't forget to hit the share button. And when you do, include hashtag Rotary Club 23 in your post. I'll say more about that in just a second. The second way that you can share the Rotary story is when those emails come through with like the Rotary Roundup, which you're reading each week, right? From top to bottom, just hit the forward button. Send it to a family member, a colleague, a neighbor, a friend. And when you do that, remember to CC stories@hbgrotary.org. So it's a great way to share the Rotary story. Now, when you share the Rotary story, at the end of every month here during the next year of my presidency here, we're checking those hashtags, and we're also checking to see who has shared the stories and copied them to stories@hbgrotary.org. At the end of every month, everyone who has shared at least 3 stories is going to go into a group of people, and the highest number of shares, the highest 5 shares in that group, will win some Rotary merch, stuff that looks like this. You might even have an opportunity to appear on a billboard. Thanks to everyone so far who has shared over the last week or so: Karen Good, Will Everhart, Una Martone, Brian Jones, Kevin Lutz, Beth Mehmet, and Jill Tenney. There's a few days left in July, so if you want to get in and compete so you can win some Rotary merch, just go out to the Rotary Club of Harrisburg Facebook page, look down through some of the stories, and share them. Or go look for some of those Rotary roundups as well and share those. All right, sharing the stories. Speaking of stories, we had a great story that we want to share with you today, and it's all about our outbound youth exchange student. Rotarians, I want you to think about this. If you are 18 years old and you just hop on an airplane and go to another country for a year, that's gutsy and nervy, right? Isn't it? But it happens. It happens every year, and it's called the Rotary Youth Exchange. And here today to tell us about her experience over the past year is our outbound youth exchange student, Abby Boland.
Hi, thank you guys so much for giving me this time to tell you a little bit about my exchange. So I left to go to Belgium to live there for a year. I was in Mons. It was great. I absolutely loved it. Here's some pictures of the other American exchange students that we had go there. Oh, that's what I did. So I got there August 17th. This is my first host family. They were so great. They did not speak a word of English. When I got off the plane, it was terrifying. I really wasn't expecting them to talk as fast as they did, but it's their native language, so they talked very fast. But they were super sweet. They did a lot with me, and I really loved them. So I tried to be very involved with my Rotary Club over there. I knew some exchange students here who really loved the Harrisburg Club, so I wanted to do that as well. So I went to their meetings 2 times a month about, just sit, talk with them. It was really great. They had some like district activities with all of us, which was a lot of fun. And then on the other side, there's just some more pictures of me and my host families. This was my school. So Belgian schools, it would kind of be like having a middle school and a high school together. So that is actually all of the students there. They tried to take a picture, didn't go so well because you had a lot of students there. But it was really nice. I took about 12 classes and I got to take some Dutch, which is Belgium's second official language. I didn't learn much, but I tried my best. It was actually pretty cool to learn French and a little bit of Dutch. Then this is my city. I was in Mons, which is like southwestern part of the country. I thought my city was the most beautiful, but I'm of course biased. So they had like nice little artworks everywhere, places you could sit. It was really cool. So this is my host family. I had 2 host sisters and then 2 host brothers. Everyone was younger than me except for one of my host brothers, but they were all really nice. I got along with them. We did fun things together. And then at Christmas time, I played in a concert, and then they all came, and it was nice. So, Belgian food. It was all amazing. I gained so much weight over there. It was great. Belgian chocolate is definitely the best. It was so good. I ate so much of it. My host mom and I on Sunday evenings, we would go to a coffee and like chocolate place and just sit there and eat. It was great. French fries are actually Belgian, not French. So my French teacher taught me that, Madame Larson, in high school, and my host mom reiterated that to me multiple times. And they were really good. It was great. The raclette is like cheese fondue. It was amazing. They ate that mostly in the winter because it was like a warmer thing. And then mussels. I'd never tried mussels before, but it ended up being my favorite. And it would come out in like this big pot, and you would just sit there and eat them. It was really good. So, for Christmas, in December, you would also get a visit from St. Nicholas, and he would bring you some chocolates and some oranges for being a good kid. And so that's what my St. Nicholas did for us on a December morning, and it was really good. And then they celebrated Christmas pretty similarly to us in the US, but what they do is they stay up until midnight, and that's when they watch Mass, and then we come back and we open all the gifts at midnight, and that's how they celebrate Christmas. And then we go to bed, and then the rest of the 25th, you go and you visit your different families' houses. So I was lucky enough to have Rotary and my host family take me on some trips when I was over there. I went to Amsterdam for a couple days, which was so fun. I went to Barcelona for a week with all the exchange students. It was crazy. It was so much fun. It was so cool. And then I went to Axel Chapelle in Germany for their Christmas markets with my host family, and I loved it. Christmas markets were so cool. I didn't expect them to be like as big as they were, and they were great. And then of course I got to go to Paris, which is really exciting. It was like the one place I really, really wanted to go. So I really loved it. So yeah, thank you for listening to me about my trip.
Abby, will you show us your jacket?
Oh yeah, try to move it like this. Here are a lot of my pins from my exchange. Oh. Very fun.
So could you just tell us a little bit about the pins?
So the pins were given to me by some of the Rotary members. A lot of them, most of them, came from other exchange students. I made like 200 pins and they all made theirs. And then we would share them. So everyone has their own different pins. Some of them I bought from places like this one. It's a little lizard that I got from, what was it, Barcelona. Just little things like that. And then some of them I just collect. Like I have some chocolate wrappers on here from my favorite chocolates.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Abby. You know, youth exchange is really all about building relationships. It takes a student, for sure. It takes a school. It takes families. And it takes a Rotary Club. People who just want to share life with someone over the course of a year. So I have a hunch that we'll be hearing more about Rotary Youth Exchange as we prepare for next year. And on August the 15th, there will be a Zoom call from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. to hear stories of returning exchange students. So see Jill Tenney about that. One last highlight, you know, at the beginning of our meeting, we referenced the fact that Bob Hostetter's birthday is tomorrow. And if you keep an eye on the chat function there, you'll see a Zoom link there. It's an invitation to Bob Hostetter's birthday. Just feel free between 2 o'clock tomorrow and 3 o'clock, click into the Zoom meeting and just drop in to say happy birthday to Bob. Well, our program committee does an incredible job and has been doing a great job bringing to us some of the finest speakers and presenters. And introducing our speaker today is Ski.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. I am very excited today to introduce to some and maybe reintroduce to others Secretary Swails, who has over 20 years of fiscal and policy experience in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. She has served in numerous roles within administrations, the Commonwealth's Governor's Office of the Budget, Department of Human Services, Senate Democratic Appropriations Committee. She was also recently the Fiscal Management Director of the newly created Shared Services Budget Office, which is responsible for the oversight of budgets for the departments of Aging, Health, Human Services, and Drug and Alcohol programs. I have a feeling that's just about all of the secretariats. So she has quite a broad reach and understanding of the various secretariats in the Commonwealth. She is a graduate of Penn State, so she is among friends here today. She received a bachelor's degree in professional accountancy. But ladies and gentlemen, her true claim to fame is that she is a very proud alumna of your favorite community college. She received an associate's degree in business administration before she became a Nittany Lion. She resides in Marysville with her family, and today she's going to provide us with an overview of the Office of Budget and some select budget highlights for the 2020-21 year. So ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in providing her with a very warm Rotary welcome. Secretary Swails.
Thank you, thank you. And before I went to HAC and graduated from HAC, I was a proud graduate of Susquehanna High School. I see a classmate of mine is on the call, so I'll just say hi to Jess Ritchie. We spent 13 years in Susquehanna School District together. So, you know, I'm from around here. I will try to make the discussion on the Office of Budget as exciting as one can possibly do. It's tough material to really, really get started. in the governor's budget office, there are really 4 separate offices, and budget administration. You go to the next slide. And so there's budget administration. That's really the technical, the loading things into the system, making sure people have their documents posted and no one runs into issues where they can't process payments and their budget is reflective of what was passed and enacted by the legislature. So really, budget administration deals a lot with the massive book we produce once a year that has all the details of the governor's budget proposal in it, and really helps with the systems both in the governor's budget office and throughout the agencies, so that they're all reporting and looking at the same system. Budget analysis is really working with the agencies to project how they're going to end the year, how they need to prepare and focus on the next year, and how we will, what our request will be needed. We have several different, we lump them into hubs, such as what was discussed, human services is really one section. Then we have health and safety, so corrections, PennDOT, and then environmental, and the executive agencies are another. So they have one contact in the budget office to work through any of their budget requests, their budget documents, and working through that. We work with agency fiscal offices all throughout the year, and are in constant contact with them to make sure that there are no hiccups or issues. And when they do present issues, we work to help them through that. Revenue, capital, and debt is really focused on the RACB program, sometimes called RCAP. It's really redevelopment assistable, it's capital program. There's been generally a window opens up for those applications in January. We were without a debt bill for quite some time. The legislature did pass a debt and itemization bill in June, which allowed us to reauthorize debt for these projects. These are much larger projects for capital development and jobs, and when the applicant must provide half of the financial, if the grant from the Commonwealth for the RCAP program is $1 million, the entity must also match $1 million in private funds for the project that they're requesting. We also focus on cash flow estimates there. It's particularly critical, more so these days when we're facing the worst revenue deficit probably ever, given the pandemic and the shutdown of businesses, the shifting of the tax deadline from April to July, shifted almost $2 billion from one fiscal year to the next. So when in a time in the budget where we really are generally good on cash flow, we face such a deficit with that revenue shutdown as well as the shift. And so monitoring the cash flow and the needs of the Commonwealth, working with the Treasury to borrow cash if needed, is critical, and none more so than now. So that's key. And then Office of Comptroller Operations is also under the direction of the governor's budget office. And they're the ones who really do the everyday work of processing invoices and drawing down federal dollars across all the agencies. And certainly education receives a lot of federal dollars, DHS, Medicaid, a lot of federal dollars, and they're responsible for preparing and the reports and documents to draw those dollars down, which also affects our cash. So it's critical that those things operate smoothly, that we report on time. We also have an annual financial report that's required. We have many single audits that are required throughout all the agencies, and the Comptroller Operations coordinates those audits and preparation for response both internally and to the federal government, manages payroll and travel. Obviously, those are two key important aspects, but really, just processing everyday invoices and payments so that the individuals and businesses and groups that we do business with are paid appropriately. The next slide, this is a budget cycle in any year but this one, I would say. So we'll start with kind of what is the normal, if we have any of that anymore, normal cycle. But budgeting is really all year round. Many people think of the budget as February because that's when the governor puts out his proposed budget, and then of course June when the legislature passes it, but it's really ongoing throughout the year. Right now, July and August, we are closing out last fiscal year, trying to get started what has been appropriated for this year, and then working with agencies to prepare for what's coming next year. So in August, we issue budget instructions to all the agencies so that they can have what we're looking for them to prepare moving into the budget season. October, the agencies submit their requests to the governor's budget office. And in conjunction with the governor's policy office, the budget office really tries to coordinate with the agencies what initiatives the governor would like to focus on as we prepare for his budget address in February. So that's all going on in October through January, working with what the agencies have submitted, reviewing what their requests are. Now, many agencies will generally have the same budget, whether it's just operating budget. There will be increases for personnel, union contract increases. And then you have agencies that are really driven by the consumers that serve, like DHS, Medicaid rolls. That's a mandated program. So if they are eligible, we must provide services. So that is really an agency that you see a lot of fluctuation. They operate facilities, which youth development centers, mental health hospitals, as well as intellectual disability centers. So we must serve those individuals in those centers. And it's critical that we have the funding for all of those services. We recently expanded Medicaid services broadly in community health choices. So those contracts under managed care require actuarially sound rates. So we must budget for those too. So there's a lot goes on there. School districts, we also have corrections that we must fully fund for the staffing and operation of those facilities. And we pull that all together in conjunction with agencies and the governor's office to prepare for his budget address, always the first Tuesday in February, unless of course there's a Super Bowl that might involve any of the Pennsylvania teams. Sometimes that is enough to get it shifted, but that's really the only time I've ever seen it moved. And unless there's a new governor, and the new governor has an additional month to pull that together, and it's in March. So February budget is announced and shared, and the preparation for budget and appropriation hearings with the House and the Senate begins. The agencies prepare those documents to submit to the legislature, and then we all have the very great joy of testifying in front of the appropriations hearings, and that happens and is concluded usually by the first week in March. And then the administration engages with the legislature, and we hope by June 30th there's an enacted budget. So that's the normal process this year. As some of you may notice, things are a little different around here. So we actually enacted, there was an enacted budget in May, which is the first time I believe has been done since Tom Ridge was in office, and there was money everywhere then. So what was enacted was a 5/12 budget for the most part, except for education and debt service. They were fully funded at last year's levels. The reason for the abbreviated budget was really the massive amount of unknowns that were existing in May and June, and still. Now, how fast will we open? How will revenues bounce back? What will the federal government do to help states address their deficit? We are currently facing a $5 to $6 billion deficit between 1920 and 2021. Without any federal assistance, that will certainly make finalizing the budget in November very difficult. It will require new revenue of some sort or massive cuts. So these are the options that we're faced with. And no one had enough information to finalize that in a May-June timeframe. So collectively, the governor and the legislature agreed it was best to provide a short-term funding for those critical services that Pennsylvania government provides. And we continue to monitor at a federal level what will occur as Congress is in the next 2 weeks to see if there's any additional assistance for states. And if not, then we'll move forward on what that looks like in November as we finalize the budget for the remaining 7/12 budget. And if you look at the cycle, that means that while we are trying to finalize 2021, we will also be working on prepping for 21-22 and preparation for the governor's release of his budget in February. So it'd be a very busy time for the governor's budget office and agencies trying to manage through the pandemic and the revenues and all the issues that faces while continuing to work towards hopefully what the future holds in 2021 and 21-22. So back to the quick interim budget. As I said, it was enacted at the end of May, $25.789 billion. So through 5/12 through November. And as I mentioned, critical to schools to know what kind of funding they had. So we kept that. We agreed that it made sense for schools as they're trying to open in the fall, that they at least knew their base funding was there again at 1920 levels. As part of that budget, the Commonwealth received $3.9 billion from the federal government in the CARES Act. We did appropriate $2.6 billion to areas of food security, nursing homes, local county governments for them to distribute. 7 of our counties received their money directly from the federal government. That was based on their size and number of individuals in the county. The other 60 relied on Commonwealth to distribute these dollars. Like the Commonwealth, the county and local governments, municipal governments cannot utilize any of those dollars to replace their revenue. So it's really based on direct cost and then distributing out to businesses and nonprofits and other organizations in their county that they can serve the best. There is a small business grant program from a statewide perspective, but also many counties are operating their own small business programs to assist those businesses that have been closed during the pandemic. So that wraps up, I think, my exciting explanation of what happens at the governor's budget office. But I think now I'm open for questions.
That was the best budget presentation I ever heard. Way to go. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yes.
You know, I really try to liven up budget speak because you can only do so much with it. I start with the hair and then, you know, try to liven up the topic.
And work out from there. So
yeah, that's right. You have to have a starting point.
That's exactly right. Well, no, we appreciate that. And I'm looking for any questions. I'm looking for any questions coming in. How did you, Jen, I mean, what was the path that kind of led you to where you are today?
I have no idea. No. You know, it just, I give the speech I give to my kids, maybe. It's just like, you work hard, you do the best that you can. My mother worked for the Commonwealth, so I was like, I can get a job there. I knew about civil service, so I took the civil service test. I had a bunch of, I took it in February and heard nothing until about October. Now knowing how the budget cycle works, I understand why that is, because at the end of the fiscal year, there's no money, people can't hire, so they have to wait until there's a new budget. So I had 2 interviews scheduled. I interviewed for my first job with the Commonwealth at Louisville Youth Development Center as a 22-year-old. I was walking into razor wire and wondering what I was doing there, and had a great interview there. And I was supposed to go to a PennDOT interview the following Monday, and they called and offered me the job that Friday. And so that really shaped kind of the career that I moved to. As mentioned in my bio, I focus a lot on DHS and health in that area. So I started at the YDC. I was only there for a little bit and got sent to Harrisburg, which was, like a 4-letter word when you worked out there, to fix a budget issue that they had at the time. I ended up taking, there was youth development centers, was about 13 at the time. They're much smaller now. But at the time, everyone had their own procurement and budget office. And of course, they did everything differently. So my task at hand was to consolidate those functions into 2 regions. So I did that over time. I was offered a job at the DPW at the time, budget office, and worked there for the longest time, probably 7 years. I had child development. I had a hodgepodge of different programs, so it kind of touched all the different offices in the department. So a little bit of long-term living and child care and child welfare and YDCs and a lot of different things. And I did a lot, budgeting at the time. It's a lot of predictability. You kind of know when it's happening, whether it's an unusual year or not. In October, you have a budget to prepare for, and then you have a blue book in February. So I always kind of just worked to that. I had a boss one time that asked me to do something, and she said, I know this isn't your area, but I don't know what to tell you, but those who do well do more. So a lot of guidance I've given to some interns is never say it's not your job. It's an opportunity to learn. Then, one day, a secretary, administrative assistant said, Randy Albright called for you. And I said, I have no idea who that is. And Dave Spieshak was budget director at the time. He's like, oh, I may have given your name to someone. And at the time, that led me to the Senate Democratic Appropriations. Having gone from the executive branch to the legislature, again, I was like, what am I doing here? Because that is quite a switch, but certainly gave me a lot of perspective on how things operate from that angle. Randy Albright, who I didn't know at the time, was the ED, and then later became the budget secretary. So I left the Senate Appropriations for a little bit, came back to my home at DHS in the Office of Child Development, and about 12 months later, Randy called upon me to be his special advisor related to human services and those type of programs. And then when he retired, I was named the budget secretary, even though I said no for a long time. No one really listened to that, so I finally gave in. And here I am.
So you've seen it. You've seen the whole work. How many budget cycles now have you survived?
Well, I guess 20.
20.
I'm into my 20th year with the Commonwealth, so
there's no
much
t-shirt.
Different in the beginning.
There's
no t-shirt.
Yeah.
No. And I call Randy a lot and tell him I didn't sign up for this pandemic. So things were going good until, I don't know, like 5 months ago. Then it went a little sideways.
But given the uncertainty then, like in public spending, surrounding the pandemic, and how are you planning for 2021?
Well, sort of, as I mentioned, it's really depends on what the federal government does. Really hopeful that there's some assistance for states. This is not a regional issue. This is a completely nationwide issue. Every state is facing, if we're looking at a $5 to $6 billion deficit, I can't fathom what New York is facing, given that Manhattan has been shut down all this time and continues to be shut down for the most part. I don't know how states recover from that without federal assistance, other than the answer is increased revenue or reduced services. There's no other way to get to that end result. States are required to have a balanced budget, unlike the federal government. So getting to a balanced budget by June 30th will be difficult without any federal aid.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you kind of touched on that, but there's a question that says, how do you anticipate Pennsylvania will approach the revenue deficit going forward? Especially, how will we mitigate the impact of COVID-19 related deficits? I think I just heard you say that it's not easy. You have to make choices, right?
Yeah, and all of it has to be in consultation with the legislature. We're not one branch that can make these decisions unilaterally. So certainly whatever the end result has to be coordinated with both the Senate and the House on how we balance that budget.
Another question, with the guiding assumption that a department head works with the assumption of use it or lose it in a budget, how would the governor's continued stay-at-home expectation, how does this affect the budget for those departments that are affected by like transportation costs or travel-related costs?
Yeah, we have limited, I think, agencies that are, certainly we have licensure jobs that are mandated to go out to facilities and license. So that continues at the end of, when the pandemic hit, it was very difficult to freeze too much spending because the majority of the fiscal year had already been over. Having moved into, we continue with a hiring freeze. We continue with only mandatory spend on contracts and things like that. But even with base funding for the first 5 months, that's essentially a cut. So agencies really have to manage where they're doing more with less, I guess, because we have union contracts that we mandate increased pay. And with a flat funded budget, that means something else has to be cut. So, we're only hiring necessary for health and safety reasons and reducing as much spending as we can. But obviously, if people have to travel for their job, then they have to do that, and we have to find those reductions elsewhere.
Yeah, I think probably just when you're looking at budgets, it just keeps coming back to those numbers, right? And making the choices.
Yeah, before the pandemic, I said there was no money, so now there's even less of that.
Now there's even less of that.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate, again, I appreciate you just kind of fielding some of those questions, and we appreciate you being here today. Again, being sharing your expertise. Everyone, let's give it up for Jen, right? Give her a big round of applause. And we appreciate all that you do in public service. And again, thanks for sharing here in our club today. Well, folks, it's been, we're just about down to where we wrap up our meeting. It's been another great Monday meeting here with the Rotary Club of Harrisburg. So good to see everyone out, and remember Bob's birthday. Again, I can't say that enough. And next week, we will be hearing from Joe Arthur. Joe is the Executive Director of the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, and he'll be talking to us about what the food bank is doing here in pandemic time. Again, we appreciate everyone here. Stay tuned for additional service projects, additional things that we're doing, and we appreciate all that you do to make Rotary what it is. Stay cool this week, make it a great Rotary week, and we will see you again Monday next week.